Hi Mlu, welcome back to my channel. I once was a computer science student and I studied a lot about it, including the basic, the fundamental, and also the advanced knowledge. Quite frankly speaking, I'm not an outstanding student by any means, but I definitely have the ability to pass the tests I encountered. But after finishing my college life, I almost forgot all of the informations I thought I had learned during the 4 years, which scares me a lot. This seems normal for most of us who don't take the job in their major. Humans forget things, and it's never a secret. We don't have a super powerful brain which can remember everything we met in our life. But I want to know what can I do would help me remember more about the lessons in my own journey. And this brings us to the topic of today's video, learning how to learn. You may ask, you were already graduated. Why bother learning stuff anyway? In my opinion, learning is what makes us improve. I couldn't have recovered from anxiety and depression if I never learned about it. I couldn't have enjoyed being lonely if I never learned the beauty of it. I couldn't have known what kind of person that I am if I never read a book. Learning helped me and saved me. As the saying goes, learning never exhausts the mind. There are also more reasons why we should be a learner for the rest of our life. Lifelong learning is a continuous and never-ending sharpening of our skills and our knowledge base. Being a lifelong learner has enormous benefits. It can boost our self-confidence. Regardless of how small or large it is, we know we're a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday. Lifelong learning is a process that equips us with the tools we need to improve. Learning a new skill or subject may start small, but as we continue the process, we start becoming valuable. It can empower the people around us. All we can teach is all that we have learned. It is impossible for us to empower other person if we lack the knowledge or experience to them, like our kids or friends. It can improve our financial condition and expand our social network. There are endless examples of people who have improved their finance through learning the new and evolving techniques in their industry. Besides, exposing ourselves to the new ways of thinking and skills gives us opportunities to a wider social network. We are all never too old or too young for learning. Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. A lifelong learner is dedicated to escape the prison of impossibilities through learning that extends over his entire lifetime. So if we keep learning through our lifespan, then we will never grow old. How good it is. Alright, we know the benefits, and we know that we all can be a lifelong learner. But what's the effective way to learn? As we went through our school days and college years, we must have used massive ways for studying, but in my case, they're inefficient because I can't remember what I've learned in the long run. After a lot of research, I found that there are mainly two methods we can use for effective learning and remembering. They are active recall and spaced repetition. Active recall is a scientifically proven technique which involves retrieving information from memory and testing ourselves at every stage of the revision process. Retrieving information and data from our brains not only strengthens our ability to retain information, but also improves connections in our brains between different concepts. When implementing this technique, the key point is that revision should be cognitively demanding, because the harder we have to retrieve information, the more effective our brains will become in storing and recalling that information in the future. We can use this method simply by asking questions about the knowledge we have learned, or taking notes, not just copying and pasting, but writing our own words, or teaching back with the most understandable descriptions which a completely novice could know the meaning. Spaced repetition is another effective method for learning. It involves spacing our revision and reviewing topics. The forgetting curve is an idea that has been in the psychology literature for over 100 years. It was found by Hermann Ebbinghaus from the tedious studies on himself, and thanks to him, we now have a better understanding of our memory and a better way for effective learning. The curve shows how information is lost when there is no attempt to retain it. We can take advantage of this curve through breaking the cycle by reviewing material at spaced intervals. Just when we are to forget the information in our minds, can we use spaced repetition to retrieve it? By doing so, not only can slow down the forgetting curve, but also encode the information into our long-term memory in the end. The brain mainly contains two memory systems, the working memory and the long-term memory. The working memory can only hold what you have in your mind right now, and it has its limitations. Researchers have found that humans can generally hold 4 pieces of information at once, whereas the long-term memory can hold a lot of information, but in a scattered manner. Fortunately, we could use active recall to get the information we want. Speaking of learning methods, there are 3 most used yet inefficient ways we need to talk about. They are rereading, highlighting, and summarizing or making notes. Personally, I used all of these methods. Rereading is being said the most popular technique that students rely upon to revise, and it is easy to do. However, research suggests that it is not a productive way for studying. Rereading is mostly a passive process. We follow the author's mind of the book or the article, but hardly ever put our own thoughts in it, whereas the brain is more effective at retaining information when it is being actively used. Highlighting is another popular way for studying among students, but research indicates this may hinder tasks with making inferences. Finally, summarizing or making notes. Research found that only if the note-takers are skilled at summarizing can this be an effective way of learning, but most of us lack the ability to take smart notes. Bear in mind that rereading or cramming have little to improve our knowledge but overload the brain. But I don't think we should abandon this once for all. We can still use this method only if there is a clear purpose. For instance, we could highlight the important information we come across and then transform into a flashcard, and use active recall and spaced repetition for a better grasping of the knowledge. We are in an information explosion time with history. The amount of published information or data and the effects of this abundance is increasing rapidly. In just 1 year alone, we see around 6 million new books being published, and those are only English ones. In addition, we have digital media and traditional media. All of it enters our brains and causes us to feel more than a little overwhelmed. As the amount of available data grows, the problem of managing the information becomes more difficult, which ultimately can lead to information overload. Yeah, our brain has the ability to store information, but its primary function, I think, is to understand, to generate new ideas. So, in order for our brain to function well and effective, we should build a second brain which it can rely on and be focused with the things close at hand. By building a second brain, I mean taking smart notes while we are reading, listening, and watching. This can be achieved by the Zettelkasten system. Zettelkasten system is a holistic method on how to deal with the knowledge in our life. It is a personal tool for thinking with writing. Its reference feature can make a web of thought possible. It was used by Niklas Luhmann, a German social scientist who was highly productive and published 58 books and over 600 articles in 30 years. And even after his death, there were still new books being published in his name, based on the almost finished manuscripts laying around in his office. The Zettelkasten system emphasizes connection, not collection. We can use this method to improve the connectivity of our thoughts and be more productive, and finally make the output, which is writing, easier and coherent. This method consists 3 note-taking steps. First, we take fleeting notes, which can capture every idea that pops into our mind. In this step, we don't worry about how we write it down or what we write it down. In fact, it should never be a distraction to us, and it should be short in text, because we can always process the notes later. Second, we make literature notes. When we read, listen, or watch something, we should write down what we don't want to forget, or things we think might be used in our own thinking and writing in the future. This note should also be short but selective. The best way to do it is to write in our own words. Oh, remember, the note needs to have its bibliography detail with it stored in one place. Third, we make permanent notes. Within this step, the purpose is to develop ideas, arguments, and discussions rather than collect. When looking at the fleeting and literature notes, we should ask questions to ourselves, such as, does the new information contradict, correct, support, or add to what we already have? Can we combine these ideas to generate new ones? What questions are triggered by them? Then we use full sentences to write the note for each idea. Meanwhile, try to be precise, clear, and brief. By the time we finish it, we could throw away the fleeting notes and put the literature notes in the reference box of the Zettelkasten system. It is definitely not a complicated method, but we have to be consistent to really see the results. Remember, it is not only a note-taking method, but our second brain we could rely on, and it's also our knowledgeable partner. We can use pen and paper to achieve this method, but in the digital world, I prefer using some note-taking apps. There are loads of apps which can help us when learning, such as OneNote, Evernote, Obsidian, Roam Research, Bear, Nobility, and the list goes on and on. Personally, I use GoodNotes, Notion, and RemNote. There is no right or wrong when choosing one or another. I find myself comfortable when combining these 3 apps together. I really think RemNote is very promising because it has a feature for the Zettelkasten system and built-in active recall and spaced repetition function, like the app I enjoy to use when learning language, which is Anki. Other apps are also good, but I don't have much time with them right now, such as Obsidian or Roam Research. Anyway, find the tool you are comfortable with and begin taking smart notes and building your second brain. Because the best way to learn is by doing, and knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice. I'll leave all of the informations, including the apps, books, articles, which I think might be helpful, down in the description box. If you're interested, definitely check them out. Alright, I have talked a lot, and these are my thoughts about how to be a lifelong learner. and hope you enjoyed. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like and comment down below, and consider subscribing. Or if you think there are some improvements I can make, feel free to comment as well. Thanks again for watching, and may you be happy, healthy, and at peace.